Hi, I'm Mike Cerrone with Mastermind Agent, and welcome to the Referral Mastermind Call. This is where we get together and we talk about how to build up our referral businesses. We're talking about how to get more repeat and referrals from our past clients, our friends, our family, our sphere of influence. This is where we come together and bring the power of the mastermind to any challenges that you may be experiencing. And it's a lot of fun. Again, I really appreciate everybody showing up. I see a lot of great people on the call. Thank you for being here. As we're waiting for others to join us, I'm going to go ahead and just make one quick statement. I think that we've got a market that's changing, and that's creating some questions for people and what they should be doing, how they should be approaching the market. And these are all good questions. Keep in mind, it's not the first time. So if you're a newer agent, go talk to an older agent that's been around a while. The issue now, though, is to be around a while may have to go back a bit. And what I mean by that is we really haven't had a downturn in the market, a significant downturn in the market for quite a long time, for over a decade. So you're going to have to talk to someone who's been in the business over 10 years ago if you want to get a feel for how they handled that. And that basically started in, depending on what market you were in, 2005 was the earliest we had signs. That last one kind of rolled through the country a little bit different than this one. This one's happening all kind of at the same time for everybody nationally because it's based on interest rates rising and the Federal Reserve's trying to slow down the economy, which is a very difficult thing to do. Okay, they can move the economy one way or the other, but they don't know how far it's going to go. They don't know the amplitude. That's the dangerous part of it. But because they're doing it with interest rates, it's affecting everybody at once. In the U.S. and a lot of central banks around the world are doing the same. And so it's a constriction that's affecting everybody at the same time. Although when you talk to people in different markets, they are still experiencing it at different levels and at different times. Either way, to go back in history just real fast, again, about 2005 is when it started, but it rolled through 2006, 2007. Some people didn't even feel it to 2008, but by 2008, agents all across the country were feeling it. And that basically happened until about 2010 to 2012, the rollout to come back out of it. So if you do a little bit of math, you realize that thing lasted for several years, in some markets up to 5 years. And when I, way back when I learned about real estate from some of the professors out there, they used to talk about a 7-year cycle where things were booming for 7 years and crashing for 7 years. I haven't seen that in my career, but certainly have seen the ups and the downs, but there's no set number. So the reason I'm bringing that all up, I guess I'm kind of falling back in more and more into this, but the reason I'm bringing that up is that you got to look for the long-term view because you don't know if this is going to be a short little blip or it's going to take a long time. And if you listen to all the economists out there and the financial people, they don't know the answer either. Everybody's speculating because nobody knows whether we're going to have a soft or a hard landing. What does that mean for you and your business? Well, as I mentioned, go back and talk to some of the old timers that are out there. You're probably going to have to talk to somebody 10 to 15 years at least in the business. So if you hit somebody at 20 years plus, you got a good chance of finding out what they did through that market change. Let me give you I went through a couple of them because I started in 93. 93 was a recession. We were actually coming out of a recession, started in 91. And then we had another one around the end of the millennium, around 99 into 2001, depending on which market you were in. And we bopped through that. Some of them you feel more than others. All of them pretty much have the same solution. And that is that the people who have skills, the people who know market, understand the market, they're doing their market analysis and understand what's going on, they're going to have the best opportunity to succeed in this kind of market. And as far as what we talk about here with referrals and working with your sphere of influence, I think that this is where the huge opportunity for you is, because you can build a moat around your people and protect them, take care of them, educate them, and create even more loyalty with them. The issue is that the excitement in the market has come down, right? You're not finding the speculators out there and the people that think they're going to make a fast buck, or just the people that are shocked that the value of their property just zoomed up. That's not going to be there as the market flattens out. It may even take a dip. Again, it depends. Real estate is all local, so you got to see what's happening in your local market. And when we say local, that tends to happen that it's driven by your local economy. And what that really means is your local employment. So if employment is strong in your local area, the market is going to hang in there and be strong. It's just that the affordability is changing right now because we had such historically low interest rates that I never thought I would see in my lifetime, where they came down so low and stayed so low for so long. By the way, that was forced down by the federal government trying to bring us out of that last recession. And they never took their foot off. They actually kept buying up mortgage-backed securities, all kinds of things they were doing in the market to lower mortgage interest rates as well as other interest rates. Well, you can only goose the economy for so long. You can't go to negative interest rates, right? That's just not going to happen, where you borrow money and they pay you. That's not going to happen. So they kind of pushed the end of that envelope and it overblown. Again, let's get back to, though, what can you do on a practical matter? I think that if you take care of the people that have been taking care of you, that is your past clients, your friends, your family, your sphere of influence, you're going to make it through this. What's going to happen, though, is your volume will shrink, your number of transactions, your sales volume, your commissions, everything's going to shrink down. The pie is going to shrink. There's going to be fewer transactions out there. I don't think we're looking at a fall off the cliff kind of situation like 2008, where we're going to see a whole bunch of foreclosures, and because that was caused by a different problem. You never know. Again, this is all speculative, but I just don't see that. I think, though, it will shrink just because of the affordability. People are now having to pay more for the same mortgage, and that just taxes everybody, plus inflation and the constrictions they're feeling in their own personal lives. As I mentioned, that excitement is gone. And so we're going to move back towards what is a normal or balanced market, which is actually pretty good in the long run. The people who are going to win here are the people who stay focused, they get into a niche, they work it, and they become an expert at that group of people and how they can help them. And your niche can be your past clients' sphere of influence. That is always a great base of business to start with. In my opinion, and what I've seen over time. Okay, I've been in the industry now 3 decades. The people who succeed, that's what they're building out. That's the base of their business, and it seems to get them through ups and downs and the cycles of the market. All right, so I just wanted to point that out, that I think one of the best defensive moves right now that you could possibly do is to really step back for a couple of days or a week or whatever it takes. Evaluate where you are with your past clients, your sphere of influence, your PCSOI, and then put together a plan for reaching out to them consistently. If you haven't been doing that, now is the time to do that. And you're going to reach out to them with education and knowledge to make sure that they're updated on what's going on in the industry. Just be honest with people. They're already hearing it. They're already seeing it. They already know what's going on. But they do like to have it confirmed by an expert. They do like, by the way, to hear some optimism. Okay, like I just told you, it's good that the market is slowing down. The market cannot keep going at these accelerated rates. These are good scripts to be using with people to let them know it's okay for things to deflate a little bit. I like to go to extremes when I'm explaining things, just to give you some ideas. So when you're talking to someone, you could say, well, just imagine if things were going at 100% doubling, everything just doubled because the appreciation was 100%. Every year, the value of your home doubled and doubled and doubled. Eventually, you'd have $100 million house, but who would care, because all the costs would have doubled and doubled and doubled in your life as well. So it's good to slow things down. The problem with the inflationary market is that people don't know what to do. Just like you're kind of frozen maybe right now, and you're not sure exactly what to do, all the business leaders out there in the world have the same problem, because now instead of trying to figure out how to make their widgets and sell their widgets, Now they got to worry about, well, how do I make sure that I don't go upside down because of inflation? And that, right? And so if you start talking to people like that, they're going to understand, appreciate it. They may be business people or not, whatever. They're in their life. They're dealing with all these business interactions. They get that. And so then you try to figure out, how can I help you win in these kind of markets? One thing is to make sure, well, I've been babbling on a long time on this, and I want to start opening things up. The purpose of the call wasn't to talk about the market shift. I just wanted to show that in this market shift, I think the number one thing you can do is to double down on your PCSOI and create that moat, that base of business. Next thing you should do, by the way, after you have that, is then go look for a secondary niche, maybe a secondary niche at the most three legs to your stool, business columns. I'm not one of those that believe that you should have 20 or some, the spokes on the wheel and all these things. I get that, and that makes sense. It makes sense if you're going to do a giant team or something, but for most people, becoming mastery at one is really going to drive things. By the way, even the top agents, when I talk to them, they're usually getting the majority of their income from one source or maybe two sources. All right, and the one source that's always the biggest is PCSOI, right? That gets everybody through. And if you want to do some growth, in this case, maybe even just to, because the pie is going to shrink, in order to keep your same income, you're going to have to start bringing in some other outside business to bump up a little bit or expand out your PCSOI. Okay, well, there's a lot of thoughts out there. We got some folks in the room now, so let's do this. Let's open up for our mastermind, and let's find out if anybody has any issue that they would like to present to the group to get some feedback, because again, I see we have a lot of really sharp people in here today. If you've got a challenge that you're experiencing and you would like to put it forward to the group and see what their input is for you, now is the time. Go ahead and unmute yourself and tell us what you're thinking. Are you trying to work through a challenge? Are you trying to do something unique or different or expand your business? Tell us what you're working on, and let's see if we can't give you some feedback. Go ahead.
Okay, is anyone else going to ask anything? All right.
Hey, Laura.
Well, hi. So I've been working on my PCSOI. Okay. I do like working the FSBOs, so that's kind of like another leg I like to work. But I do work a few of these referral companies, like these lead companies, not ones I pay, usually the ones that send me a lead and then they just get paid a referral fee. All right. Just typically, these people are nowhere near buying, selling, what have you. But I need to really work with them because it seems like they have zero loyalty. And trying to get them to look at you as the only agent. I mean, they'll just use whoever, because most of them are coming off the internet and they just are searching and yeah. So what do you suggest on those? Because I have a bunch of them. I just feel like I don't get anywhere with any of them.
Okay, good. So
don't get me wrong. I've closed a few of them, but most of them are just, seems like a waste of my time.
Let's talk about that. All right. So we're talking about you're building another pillar to your business. And by the way I view that, and I think everybody should start viewing this a little bit differently. If you're going to build a referral-based practice, what you want to do with this outside business is that outside business, the purpose of it is to become a past client that you can now add to your sphere, add to your PCSOI and grow. So with that mindset, that's okay. But remember, that's like 20% of our time and 80% of our time is on the base. So I just want everybody to kind of have that concept first before we go down this trail and why we're going to go there. So as far as taking in these other leads and you're bringing them in off the internet, these are leads that have come in one way or the other. They're basically cold leads to you, right? They come in, whether it came from the internet or a sign call or an open house, or whatever the source was, they've come into you cold or maybe slightly warm. And the question is, how do you establish a relationship with them and get them to become loyal? I've got some ideas, but we got all these smart people in the room. So I'm going to open this up and see if anybody would like to address this and give Laura some ideas on, again, how do you warm up these cold leads and how do you help them move forward and become more loyal? If you have an idea on how to, a comment or thought on that, go ahead and unmute yourself and let us know what you're thinking.
Well, Laura, I feel your pain. That's my least favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, no, I take it back. FSBOs are my least favorite. I do get the ones that come through our company, will have them, or they'll be looking at one of my listings, and I'll capture them that way. But I jump right on it. So you all know the rule that you better be like right on it. Even if I'm in a restaurant with family, I'll say, "Excuse me one moment," and I step outside and I make a quick call. I then explain to the person, I am on family time, but I just wanted to let you know I received your message, and may I get back to you, setting expectations. May I get back to you at such and such a time? So we kind of start off that way. But usually once I've actually, had a real in-depth conversation, I'm looking at their motivation. When do you want to buy? Oh, well, we just started looking, if the right one happens, but we're in no hurry. And then when I'm asking, have you started your financing yet? Well, when the right one happens, it's like, yeah, no, that's not how it works. But after having an in-depth conversation, I usually end up, they're still on my systems, but you know how you grade the motivation. So I usually have them at a C, maybe a B or C. So, I'm putting them on campaigns. I'm following up, with a call, but pretty much even as successful with what I'm doing, it's still maybe 1 in 8. It's low that will actually get to the closing table. But I find that for those types of leads, I am putting in an enormous amount of time and energy for very little return. And again, I would much rather be spending, if I'm spending that time, spending on people that I already know are raving fans. And so I kind of, just not concentrate specifically on my sphere, but more so. So that's, I feel your pain. They're out there, but they might have only have found me just because they had one question. They were just looky-loos, and they just thought it was a pretty house. How much was it and how many bedrooms? And hey, thank you very much. Never going to hear from them again.
Okay. I just wanted to see if I was doing something wrong, because that's kind of what I find. Okay, good. And I do put them on campaigns, but yeah, that's true.
Thank you, Sherry. That was good information.
Yeah, thank you, Sherry.
Dean, did you
would add that
go ahead.
when I'm working with
I'm sorry, go ahead, Dean. I couldn't hear you.
When I'm working with those types of leads, they all say the same thing. Oh, we're just looking. And something that would get them to open up a little bit is say, well, I got bad news for you. You're normal. Like, what? Well, the average person starts looking 6 to 12 months ahead of time, and then they chuckle a little bit, and then sometimes they would open up. So a little joke like that. But that's absolutely true. If you have the expectation, these people aren't buying for 6 to 12 months. It's a little easier to handle. But yeah, I feel your pain also.
Good point. Good point. That's excellent. Anybody else have any comments on this topic? Go ahead.
Yes, I have one as well. Hello, guys.
Howdy.
Yeah, actually, exactly the same situation. I used one lead generation for 2 or 3 months. They brought me a lot of leads, maybe about 70, I would say, and all of them is garbage. So I spent so much time, following up, and then setting them up in the system and everything. So then they're trying to just ghosting out from me. So that's why I started to join your calls, because you're talking about referrals. I have also 70 people who are ghosting out from me right now. And when I'm trying to reach them up on WhatsApp, when I did before, they're not answering. They're not picking up the calls, nothing. But they're checking my listing sometimes. So I would like your advice. Do you think it's worth it just to follow up again, even if they will, if they gossip out, or should I just forget and just try to find another lead generation prog?
Gotcha. Well, let me come back to that because that's a good question. I think I'm going to answer it in a minute, but first I want to get everybody's input on this question because this is a great topic. Was there anybody else? I can't tell. I'm still learning this system. Was there some hands up or somebody else that wanted to talk? If so, unmute yourself and let's hear it. Donna, go ahead.
Hi, I have a question related to these referral companies. I'm working with Referral Exchange. I had a very good lead over a year ago, and he wanted to sell his house. A very, very affluent person. Now he wants to buy something without selling. So I had called the company a year ago to ask, what is the relationship between me and them? How long does it go for this client? They couldn't answer the question. They had to research. Basically, they came back and said it goes forever. And that to me doesn't feel right because there's a potential for him buying something in Florida, something in New Jersey, something elsewhere, which, you know, from my mouth to God's ears could be like 4 deals. So how much obligation am I to this referral company? Is it forever? Has anyone experienced that with other referral companies? Is there a termination? Is it like a 2-year limit, which to me would sound reasonable, a 3-year limit?
Most of the ones I've got are either 12 months or 24 months.
This one said, no, it's going to be forever and it can be anywhere in the country. I'm like, what?
Yeah, and it should be on your, they all send me a referral agreement and it states in there.
Okay, I'll have to scrutinize it further.
Yeah, do you have an agreement? That was the bottom line on that question is look at your agreement. Try to find something in writing. If it's not in writing, how are they going to enforce it?
Exactly. Especially out of state. Yeah.
Yeah. And so when you're on a team, you can have an agreement like that where business comes in and it's expected that you're going to be paid out on that 1, 2, 3 times, you know, whatever the agreement is. But typically, most of these things are one-time shots for that closing. Since it rotated into other business, I'm not sure. First of all, I commend you on your ethics for saying, hey, you know, it wasn't A, but it's looking like B. I'm wondering if I owe a referral fee. I want to do the right thing and ask them. I think that's fantastic. So let's start there. Next, though, I would talk to, I'd look at the agreement. If you can't find the agreement, ask your broker. And if you are the broker, then ask the company to send you the agreement. Say, you know, I'm just a little confused. Could you please send me the written agreement so I can read through it? And I just want to make sure I'm doing everything right. I know you want me to make sure I'm doing everything right. Could you send me the written agreement? And they'll either send it to you or maybe it's on their website. And then you can get clarification that way. And then after that, I don't know, it gets a little fuzzy, right? You're going to have to go with your gut. Maybe you want to bounce it off your broker or an attorney or something. You want to do the right thing, but I never had the impression that it lasts forever. That seems a little unusual to me. Did that help a little bit, Donna?
Yes, thank you. Yes.
Okay. I'm going to go back to the last question. You know, we have actually a couple of questions going here. I kind of opened it up a little too much, but I think Zarina, I can't remember the name, but I think that was right, start with a Z, had asked a question about, hey, you got these internet leads, they're coming in, and I got this source of business. I got 70 leads, but nothing's panning out. Should I keep doing that source of business or not? That's always a good question on source of business. Some sources of business will result in quicker closings and more business than others. That is 100% true. And so you won't know until you test it and find out what kind of quality of business is coming through to you. And that goes back to this overall question of internet leads. I want to start there. We've been talking about basically getting these cold leads or these internet leads in. Keep in mind, when you get cold leads from any source, door knocking, phone calls, internet leads, any source where it's cold and you're pulling these leads in, your odds of a closing traditionally is about 1 in 100. 1 in 100 leads have to come in and you have to go talk to them and qualify them and work through them. Out of that 100, you may find 3 to 5 or so that have some interest or more, stronger interest, but they don't actually end up closing. It's one out of 100. That's the national average. And when I talk to the top agents in the nation who are really good at these cold lead funnels and structures and clearing out, and they've got ISAs and they're doing amazing drip systems. I mean, they've got a lot of money involved in it and a lot of time and effort involved in it. And sometimes they can bump that 1% to 2%. Okay. That's what they're looking at. And so what that means is you got a 1 in 100 shot. You got to know that going in. And if you're okay with that and you stay on it and you keep working it, you'll get 1 in 100. If you get really good at it, get your systems dialed, and you're really heavy on it, you might hit 2 in 100, 1 in 50 or 2 out of 100. And that's okay. That's great. That is a way to do this business. People have done well that way. My opinion is you got to look at other different kinds of lead sources. Let's run through them super fast. For instance, how many leads do you need to have come in before you get a closing from, say, open houses? Anybody know the number there? That's about 20. So
20%.
Oh, I heard somebody. Go ahead.
20%, you mentioned previously.
Yeah, it's actually 5%. It's 20 leads come in and 1 closing. So it bumps up to 5% on open houses, which is nice. That's better than a internet lead, but it's not like phenomenal, but it's good. Just know you're going to have to talk to about 20 people in an open house and get working with them and following up with them. And one of them is going to close on average. Now that can change over time, right? You get in a super heated market and so forth like we just had, it might go up. Although then you got the problem of finding them homes, right? So now the actual success rate goes down. That's why it's popping out at about 5% or 1 in 20. Let's talk about for sale by owners and expireds. That's a really great source. I'm trying to remember. I'm sorry, I'm losing track of names, but somebody just mentioned earlier that they were doing FSBOs. For sale by owners and expireds are really cool because they've raised their hand. They said, I want to sell my home. There's competition there and there are other challenges, but they're good. They raise their hand. If you pursue them and get really good at it, how many of those leads do you have to come in to get 1 closing? That's 10. So 10 FSBOs and expired, you start working, you're going to get to a closing once on average because of your competition and whatever. That's just the way it works. But that's way better than internet leads. That's 10 times easier than internet leads because they've already raised their hand. Whereas you've already pointed out, everybody's pointing out, internet leads often come in, they're cold, they don't really know what they want to do yet, they're far out, you don't know what you're getting. You're just getting kind of a random lead. You might get a super hot one, but you don't know what you're going to get. It's really funny to me. By the way, I'm kind of going on another tangent. I tend to do that. But in the old days, when I got started, I used to listen to Mike Ferry. And Mike Ferry was the prospecting guy, right? And call on the phone or knock on the door. And that's what I started doing, was knocking on doors. And he had an old rule of thumb. If you talk to 100 people, either knocking on the door or picking up the phone, if you talk to 100, you get to 1 closing. If you talk to 100, you get to 1 closing. And he was right. That was about the way the numbers worked out. And so it's kind of humorous to me that we used to do that for free, just our time. And now people are going out and buying internet leads to get the same thing, to have to contact 100 people to get to 1 closing. So you might just start knocking on doors or making random calls because you're going to have the same success rate and you're going to save more money in your pocket. But beyond that, I got to finish this up. One last part of the puzzle that I'm outlining here is this. If you have a referral, how many referrals do you need to come in to go to 1 closing? 2. 2. That's amazing. 50% odds you're going to get to a closing. That you already know this inherently, right? You know that the easiest business you get is your friends and your family because they're not going to bother you till they're really ready to do something and they're already moved down the line and now you're getting involved and you've been nurturing them all along in your personal relationships or through your system or both if you're smart. And you've got a relationship. So they've moved along. When they come in, they're pretty strong. They're going to close. So that's why I say focus on PCSOI, build that up to as big as you can get it, and then start going to these outside sources. People do this in reverse all the time. They go to the outside sources to try to build up their sphere. Start wherever you are. If it's 50 people or 100 people, 150 people, whatever it is, it's going to be a great base of business, and it's easy and it's super profitable and it's fast. There's so many cool parts about it. You just have to take care of it. And it's small. It's easy to take care of this little group. It's really easy and inexpensive, as opposed to trying to go out to the whole universe through these cold leads. Anyway, I hope that helps. Let me open this up. Go ahead. What do we got?
Well, can I add, when you're talking about your sphere, don't think if it was your listing, so you've sold the property and you're thinking you just had the one client. As soon as that closing has taken place, I have all the information on who that buyer was. It wasn't my client, but now that buyer is in my database and I am reaching out to that buyer. I know their address. I mean, I just sold them the property. So they're getting the cards, they're getting the follow-up on, hey, have you done your homestead exemption or, you know, anything else? I always try to find their email address. Actually, at the closing, I have the clients exchange email and phone numbers in case they need to contact the seller. Hey, how does the furnace work or something? And then I got that information myself. But they're on my system. So for every closing, I really should have 2 people going into my database going forward.
I hope everybody listened to what Sherry just said. That was genius. That is the idea of the orphan client. You take over that's what we used to call it in the old days, which is the client on the other side of the table. During the transaction, you cannot talk to them, right? You can't work with them. They are locked up with the other agent. But after the closing, they're fair game, okay? And you say, well, there are the other agents. Yeah, but statistically, the other agent's going to be out of the business in 5 years, right? Most of them fail, 80%. Every 5 years, even if you make it past the first year, another 80% fall out. They're going to be an orphan soon. You might as well adopt them and take care of them. Nothing against that. It's totally allowed. And as Sherry was just saying, you have a relationship with them. They know who you are. You've already proven the most important thing, that you can do real estate. Even if the deal was kind of tough, now they have respect for you. That's happened to me. They're like, I want someone like you on my side next time. So yeah, Mike, let's talk. Okay, that's what's going to happen. And by the way, I just want to mention, Sherry did a call with us. Thank you so much, Sherry, on Solo Agent World. If you want to hear more about Sherry's story, pretty phenomenal stuff about how she's working with referrals. Check that out. That's pretty cool. That's over on, if you go to mastermindagent.com, you can see all the different episodes that we're doing. And Sherry did a phenomenal job. All right, let's open this up. Anybody else got a comment?
Well, I don't have a comment, but I want to tell Sherry, I love that. I've never done that. I'm going to go back and put all my old ones in my CRM from all my transactions.
Excellent, Laura. Now, remember what Sherry had mentioned, that the best time to do it is right there at the closing because it's all fresh in their head. However, I think you can absolutely go back and pick it up. And you can either do what Sherry, you can do what a lot of people do where you just drop it in and they start becoming part of your system. But you might, if you have it, you might make a quick phone call to them and just say, hey, if you had maybe been the listing agent, this is an easy one. You can say, hey, I was just checking out my records the other day and I noticed that you had bought the home at 123 Elm Street. If you remember, I was the listing agent, I was representing the seller, and you came in and bought the home, and I've just been so curious, how's the house doing? How are you doing, by the way? How are the kids? Now you've got the in, and now we're just going into a conversation, right?
So, Laura, if you want, if it's been a while for some of them, then it's the home anniversary, because again, they're on my database for the date, so I can just pull up, for the month of August, everybody, whether it's my clients or the other side, I know everybody who had a closing in August at whatever year. And so it might be, it's to introduce yourself, because it would be kind of odd, hey, a phone call, out of the blue, but send them a home anniversary card. Hey, it's been 5 years. I hope you're still loving the house. And just kind of approach it that way. So you're sort of coming, not from contribution, but you know what I mean, a little more friendly. So it's their first anniversary, the second or whatever. and kind of make a joke, whatever the presents are for like a wedding anniversary, kind of play that in, or something like, hey, it's your diamond, the diamond year anniversary. But that is reaching out to them. But other ways, as I said, I'm sure your state, wherever you are, has the homestead allowance. And so many times I'll do that a few months after they've moved in. I'll send them the information. Hey, don't forget to sign up for your homestead exemption. And they do respond to me immediately saying, my agent never told me about that. So that is always good. And plus, you should also be doing that with your own clients, the buyers that are coming in. Make sure you're reminding your own people about homestead allowance.
Thank you.
Excellent points. Laura, I'm going to go back to something you asked. I think it was you asked earlier, and that is, if you get these cold leads in, how do you stay in front of them, right? Or what kind of information would endear them to you and create some kind of loyalty? As I've mentioned, you got to first look at the statistics. But if you're okay with that, in any of these lead sources, in all the way from the top to bottom, as far as easy and difficult, the number one thing to do is educate, right? Help them learn something, help them benefit somehow. You can educate them about the stats in the market. You can educate them, as Sherry just mentioned, about something to your local area, like the homestead exemption, if that's happening in your state or your area. You can tell them about a big development that's going in down the road and how that might affect everybody, or how Amazon is coming to town, or Amazon is leaving, or whatever. Walmart just popped up, or a big employer moves in or a big employer moves out, how that might affect, because they're already thinking about it. And you could mention how you have noticed that and how it might affect the economy, some of these outside things, and how they relate to real estate, right? One other quick idea. Don't forget this. This is another one people forget often. In fact, I don't hear it mentioned as much as it should be, except by a certain group of people. You understand what I mean in a minute. People who get really good at their PCSOI. The question is, how can I get more business from my PCSOI, right? How can I generate more business? Well, as you just saw in our run up for the last 2 years of excitement, a lot of money floating around and low interest rates, well, that'll generate more business. And then the opposite, right? When the money shrinks and the interest rates go up and the affordability goes, well, it'll shrink back down. So that's kind of a natural flow. There's another thing you can do though, and that is this. What if you've got a client who's in a home and they're happy? Is there a way to get a piece of business from them right now? They're not going to move. But you can get a referral, of course. But what else? Can you get them to do something? Anybody here getting what I'm laying down here? What if you had, and you reached out to your sphere with an opportunity to invest in a rental property? Okay, a single family home, a duplex, a fourplex, whatever you see out there that looks interesting. You bump into deals all the time. You could present it to your group and say, oh my gosh, I just saw this great property over here where they're getting this great cash flow. I've already run the numbers and it's positive NOI by X amount. And you start going down the numbers and you present that to them either in a postcard, in an email, social media post, phone call. You present that to them and you say, hey, have you thought about investing in rental property? And the people are going to pop up who say, yeah, I've always wondered about that. And now you can educate them and bring them along. Or they say, yeah, Mike, I already have 3 rental properties. You're like, really? Why don't we get you 4? Or have you thought about selling one? Have you thought about refinancing? Real estate agents are always a little nervous. I was initially about, well, why talk about financing? It's because it's in the realm of real estate. And once they start talking to a lender and start doing refinances and so forth, they might free up cash. They might see that they have another way to go that they didn't realize before, or there may be another real estate opportunity that pops out. So they're very intermingled. Anyway, that was just another idea. All right, do we have any other comments, questions, issues, things you want the group to address? Again, as you see, we got a powerful group here. Thank you, by the way, everybody, for showing up. If there's anybody who would like to present something to the group, go for it. I think I see a hand, Dean. Go ahead.
Just a question, and I put it in the chat, but I've heard that stat that 10 leads for FSBOs and expires equals a closing. What constitutes a lead? Someone who sits at the table with you, talks to you on the phone? how do you measure a lead?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's different for each lead source, by the way, but FSBOs and expireds are awesomely easy for this question. If they were on the market and they expired, they're now a lead, right? As long as you now have contacted them. So I guess I do have to mention that you somehow contacted them, or you're in the process of contacting them. For instance, a lot of people go by direct mail. That's why I'm saying it doesn't have to be a conversation or a phone call. But you could direct mail, you could knock on the door, you could make a phone call, you could find them on social media and do a direct message or post on their posting. You could, there's a lot of different ways to go reach out to them, but they actually become a lead once they go on your database because you know they're expired and they haven't put their home back on the market. By the way, withdrawn is going to be a big one right now. If anybody wants to really ramp up their business over the next 6 months, start to figure out how to go after expired listings, because expireds and withdrawns, which are kind of the twins, are going to keep happening here over and over again. I just talked to, hold on just a sec, Sherry, I'm going to get you in just a sec. I just talked to an agent who she was on the wrong end of that, right? Her client said, we don't think you're doing a good job. We're not waiting until the end, which is going to be in December. We want out now. We want to go find somebody else. So she had to withdraw it from the market. Well, those people still want to move. Their desire to move hasn't changed, right? So you're going to start, when people withdraw, that's another opportunity. Now you got to follow your MLS rules, right? Make sure you find out whatever is happening in your local MLS. But if they're withdrawn, and especially if they're expired, that's going to be a massive opportunity because those people already raised their hand. Sherry, go ahead.
Okay, and speaking of MLS rules, so we have withdrawn is that it's still there on the market, but they took it off because they needed to finish a job, finish that painting or something. So that is withdrawn. No, we can't touch those because they are still with the agent. But for our market, it is canceled. So canceled is an early termination. But a lot of times agents are kind of being a little sneaky.
They don't mark it right.
They mark it as withdrawn. So we still can't touch it until it's officially expired. The client doesn't see it on MLS anymore, so they think they've done it. But then all of a sudden on the day of that expired, when it properly expired, they're deluged with all these calls like, wait a minute, why are you calling now? Because for the last 3 months, it's just been withdrawn. So it could be that the terminology, I just wanted to clarify that in our MLS, we have, it's, a canceled, which would be a terminated contract, or withdrawn, it's still with that agent until it expires.
It's a great point. In our market, it was a T, temporary off the market, or W was a fully withdrawn. So you're right. You have to know your rules and your MLS, and just all you got to do is go look at the status bar in your MLS and see what your MLS is actually labeling everything. And they keep expanding it. So you got to go check it out every once in a while because there could be a lot of additions. Let me give you an idea that I've heard. You can decide whether you want to do it or not. It's completely up to you. But in your market, if you have the issue where it looks like somebody has been taken off the market, but it hasn't been indicated correctly in the MLS, you don't know. You just don't know one way or the other. You don't want to cross the sign, right? You don't want to have a problem there. But some agents, what they do then is they do a generic marketing campaign around that listing. You understand what I'm saying? In other words, they're going to do like a just listed or a just sold postcard where they send it to the 10 people in that neighborhood. They send it to everybody. It was a generic offering. They have proof that that's what they were doing. If it happens to be that the person who had a W in the MLS calls them, now that person has initiated the call. You can decide whether that makes sense to you or not, whether it follows your standards or not. But that is something that I've heard about where they're going in with a generic offer, a blanket offer to the whole area right around that particular home. Because if the home is still connected to that agent, that person won't contact you. They're not going to reach back out. But if they are open and it's been mislabeled in the MLS, they now have the opportunity to do so, right? So that's why that's an interesting one. The other thing, let's talk about expireds because they're interesting. I think it's a massive opportunity for your second leg. Is that first of all, you got to get good at your scripting and your marketing message and what you're going to do. These people, they're awesome because they raise their hand that they want to sell. And number two, they raised their hand and said, I'll pay a commission. That's why they're different from FSBOs. FSBOs are like, yeah, I want to sell, but I don't want to pay you a commission. Okay, so that's why expireds, a lot of the top people I talk to love to go after expireds. There just haven't been that many in the market. They've really had to find them by expanding their search, where they used to do it in their city. Now they got to do it in their metro, or they got to do it the whole state. They get crazy trying to find as many. Well, now that's about to shrink back down. You're going to find a lot more expireds, and you should be shrinking your focus to right around whatever your area of expertise is. And as you're doing that, a couple things that you should keep in mind. One is that there will be this rush of people to talk to that expired the first day. And that's one option is you try to be the first agent or the first 3 or 5 agents, and whatever your rules are in your market for how early you can call, that's when you want to be ringing the phone if you're going to go that way. And by the way, I know some agents to do that. I know a guy who sells 60 homes a year just doing that. Just go right after the expire and try to get there first on the phone. The other thing, though, is sometimes it becomes a long game. So some expireds are going to re-sign that day. Some are going to wait a week. Some are going to wait a month. Some are going to wait 3 months because their circumstances have changed, or they're frustrated, or they got to clear their head from what happened just now, and they want to take some time off. They don't want to make a mistake. So that also plays into their DISC personality, what kind of personality style they are. The point for you, though, on your end is you need to be persistent. So yeah, contact them the first day, but then contact them the 3rd day, contact them the 5th day and the 7th day, contact them the 14th day, contact them the 30th day. Again, a lot of the top agents, what they like to do, especially if they're expanding markets, they're opening up their circle looking for expireds, is they'll go back and call expireds a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago that haven't relisted, and they find a lot of business there because most agents, most people don't follow through. So most agents will make, if they get the guts to make the first contact, they never make the second. They just say, oh, those people are done, and they don't follow up with them. And that's an opportunity for an agent who is willing to make the contact and continue. So if you're going to go after expireds, just like you do with your sphere of influence, your PCSOI, where you create a campaign for a year, you should be creating a campaign for your expired. We're going to contact them more than once. And a lot of the rules that come out on sales is if you make 5 contacts, your odds of getting something increase all the way up to 70 to 80% versus 1 contact, where you're somewhere around 5%. So I hope that makes sense. Anybody have any other things they'd like us to address? By the way, I haven't looked at comments in chat. I used to be on these calls and I'd put things in chat and I'd wonder why the speaker wasn't ever talking about them. And now I get it because there's too much going on. So if you have something you want to talk about, the fastest way is to unmute yourself. And I'm going to try to review chat real quick. But go ahead and if you got something, unmute yourself and let us know.
Yeah, regarding the postcards for the, I guess to do the generic marketing around the neighborhood of somebody who expired or withdrawn. Just make sure you have the disclaimer at the bottom that if your house is listed, blah, 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 blah.
That's a great
Protect
point.
yourself. Excellent,
Donna. No doubt. Everybody knows what Donna's talking about. The little mice print down at the bottom says if your home is currently listed for sale, this is not intended as a solicitation of your listing or whatever your MLS or your broker wants you to put in. Excellent point, Donna. Good. Anybody else go ahead? I'm just reading chat real quick to make sure I'm not missing something. But if you have something to say, please say it. So Cindy just talked about, we're way back to the referral exchange. You guys are probably reading the chats already, but how the referrals never expire. Okay. Yeah. I don't know. You'd have to, again, read your agreement. And by the way, you should read agreements all the time, right? That's what we do. We do contracts. That's what we're educated to do as far as a real estate contract. We just apply the same knowledge when we are looking at something as a party. You don't have to be a lawyer to read your own agreement. So, in fact, you can modify your own agreement, right? But you just can't write contracts for other people to put them together other than what you're allowed to do in your state for real estate. But the point is you can review your agreement and see what exactly it says. You can even negotiate and modify it. And you should do that before you agree to work with that lead. Or worst case, you have to give up the lead. Go ahead if there's anything else. What is considered a FSBO lead? Okay, Dean, I don't know if I got to FSBOs. So FSBO leads, same idea. You talked about expired. We talked about expired. If they're expired and you put them in your system, their lead, you have some kind of contact information. You'll at least have their address. But if you have like their phone number and you start tracking it down to me, that's a lead until they relist their lead.
I just can't imagine mailing to 10 and getting a deal.
Yeah. Well, keep in mind when I'm talking about this, I'm talking about not just one contact. I'm talking about an entire follow-up system. Right?
Okay.
Yeah. And by the way, that's also something to keep in mind. It's a good question because you're going to go aggressively, if you will, at these folks, contacting them all at multiple mediums all over the place. This is your niche. You're going to get really good about being in front of them. And even doing that, you're not going to get 90% of them. You're only going to get 10%. You got to go in with that mentality because you'll talk to agents, right? I know you've done this or maybe even done it yourself. I know I've said this words out of my mouth. I'm like, why did the Smiths list with that person? I've been talking to them 7 times. I can't believe they did that. Well, because odds are, statistically, if you're going after FSBO and expireds, 90% are going to list with someone else or do something else. And that's okay. Just you've got to focus on the ones that say yes, right? What else were you going to do with your time? Watch television? That's the mentality you got to come at it with. Now, FSBOs, to try to answer your question, same idea. If you can identify that they're for sale by owner, now you have to kind of check and make sure they're not listed in the MLS somehow, though, through one of the cheap discount programs or whatever is out there. So do that. That should be a quick first check to make sure you're not wasting your time. But you find out, you identify they're for sale by owner, you make sure they're not already listed in the MLS, and now you start getting their contact information. To me, they just become a lead. They're in your system. They've raised their hand. They said they want to sell. That's the motivation. And you have some contact information, start moving with them. Does that help, Dean?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I also found, Dean, you got to text them. I'm going to tell you, they never answer the
Okay.
phone. They never answer their messages. I find, and this is a trick, and I just learned this one. If you do a quick text and put your name in there, then call right away, and your name will pop up on their cell phone. It'll say maybe Dean, maybe Laura, whatever your name, and then they'll look at it and think, "Oh, I might know this person," and they answer.
Smart.
That's just the thing with like the iPhones and so on. Yeah, but texting, they like always get back to you.
Great advice, Laura. Yeah, that's a big open.
Or even
Go ahead.
better, when you're sending out that text message, do a video going, "Hey, Sherry Benner here, blah, 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 blah." So now they've got a video with all your contact information and people are more apt to open up a video.
Are you
Good point,
using
too.
like
Go ahead,
BombBomb for that, or how do you send the video?
Text
I'm
video.
just doing right on my phone, a quick video.
Okay.
I'm just,
Gotcha.
and it's less than a minute because anything bigger, they might not have the processing to open it up on the other side. So it is just real quick, Sherry Benner, Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, Northeast Real Estate, with my information, but it's sending over. So it's like, oh, well, that agent, went a little bit above and beyond. I didn't get just a letter in the mail or, or a phone call, here's somebody and you have got to be energy when you're doing it. Anytime you're doing, actually, even when you're just doing a regular phone call, but more so with the video. And even if you have a mirror in front of you or something, so you're always looking at your face. I know it's going to sound weird, but you better be smiling, because it actually, when you are smiling, it comes across in a phone call, and they see it in the video, and they want to, they're going to open up that energy. Just saying, always smile when you're making your calls.
Absolutely, Sherry.
Thank you.
Excellent advice. That is so true, that your emotion will come through in your tonality of when you're smiling and your cheeks are high. No doubt. And if you don't believe it, just talk to someone who is or isn't smiling right in front of you. You'll hear it differently if you'll turn. You'll start to hear the difference in their tonality. They can't help it. It's just natural. Real quick, if I were to build a campaign on that, what we've been talking about, to either go to for sale by owners or expireds, and I was trying to put this together to have X number of contacts over X amount of time, I would use the idea of, I think Laura said it first, where you go out and do the text to try to get a quick phone call first. I would try that 1 or 2 or 3 times. By the way, that's what the top agents do. They like to do that, where another technique they'll do is they'll make a call, hang up, and make a second call immediately, because people think, oh my gosh, it's an emergency. I better pick it up. Maybe there's something wrong with my kid or my family member or a friend, or maybe the hospital is trying to call me, or the police, or something's going on where somebody got in a car accident, or they start to run the worry scenario that's natural in us when somebody's trying to call multiple times real quick. It's a way to get the phone to be picked up. Same idea with the Laura idea. And then what I would do is Sherry's idea of the video email. I would drop that in later, after I've tried these, because once you drop the video email, now they know your phone number is connected to a real estate agent. I like the idea. Video email is a very strong method of medium of contact that people are using, and using very well. But if I were writing out the sequence, I would drop that in later, because now the cat's out of the bag of who's calling. Make sense? All right, cool. All right. Well, we're wrapping up. We got 2 minutes left. I'll open up for one other comment or question.
One question: when you're doing the phone calls, that first contact, do you actually leave a message, or do you wait and keep calling until they're picking up? Same reason about the video.
It's a great question. I've asked a lot of the top agents that particular question, and the question again is, hey, if you're calling up for sell by owners or expires, that's the medium we're talking about right now. If we were to call them up, do you leave a voice message on the first call if they don't answer? And most of them do not. Most of them do not, for multiple reasons. One, they don't want to let the cat out of the bag. The other reason is speed. They know that it's a numbers game. They know it's statistics. They know the 1 in 10. They understand that. And to them, because they have lives they want to live and do other things with, they're trying to get through those calls as quick as possible. Now, the only challenge when I say that for myself and for others is you don't want to be rough when somebody gets on the phone. That's when you don't want to be fast. You want to slow down, talk to them, and communicate. Sometimes we make that error. We're like, oh, we got to run through these really fast. And you're dialing and dialing and dialing and dialing. Somebody gets to the phone and go, hey, how you doing? Are you going to say home? No? Okay, goodbye.
Go with me to second to the vet.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Up to you.
Not really.
Okay.
Oh.
So we'll definitely start.
Okay, I think we had just a random voice come in there. Again, if you have a question or comment, you unmute yourself and let us know, or mute yourself when you're not. Anyway, I think we've run out of time. I think we had a lot of fun today. Thank you so much for everybody joining us. What I'm going to do at this point is I've tried to record this call. I don't know if it worked or not. Never know till the end. If I did, it'll go up onto our YouTube channel, which is Mastermind Agent Network. You can watch it there, and also in the Facebook group. If you're part of the referral mastermind call in the Facebook group, you can see it there as well. And we'll try to get that up in the next 24 to 48 hours, so you can check it out if there was anything said that you would like some clarification on or go back and listen to. Again, we do these calls every Tuesday. Thank you everybody so much for bringing such great information. I really appreciate the talent pool that is here today to participate, help, ask questions, give ideas. And I'm hoping everybody won and won big from this today. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you have a fantastic and productive week.
Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome. Thank you all.